Hello everyone and welcome back to Explore Rock Art. My name is Agustina, I'm an archaeologist, a teacher, and in this series your guide as we explore together these unique windows back in time that we know as rock art. Images made by humans in the past on different types of rock surfaces across the world. In today's episode, we'll be looking into what can the location, the placement of these images tell us about the relationship between these groups and this particular form of art. Unlike objects that are portable and can be moved around and thereby travel across the lands, rock art is found in the same fixed place in which it was originally intended. The person that created it stood in that specific spot years ago and chose that specific location for a reason. Just like in architecture, location is fundamental in rock art studies and is one of the ways in which we can attempt to get closer to understanding the importance or the role these images had in the past. So join me in this video to find out how. Remember that rock art meant different things to different groups. It had different roles, it was made for different reasons, so we need to pay attention to the specifics of each site and avoid making generalizations. Now, in order to discuss location, there are two terms we need to grasp properly: visibility and accessibility. The term visibility can be making reference to either the clarity with which an object can be seen or how far can we see clearly from a specific location. When it comes to understanding rock art, visibility is fundamental. Are these images meant to be seen by many in a wide open space, a transited area, maybe a habitation site? Or are they meant for a select few? Maybe deep within a cavernous system or high up in a cliff top? Can they be seen from a great distance? Or must one be in close proximity, standing, maybe crouching next to them to actually appreciate them? Can we see them with natural light? Or do we need artificial light, fire? Each one of these questions can help unlock the motivations behind these pictorial practices. The second term, accessibility, is just as important. By access, I mean how hard is it to get to where the images are? Can I do it by myself? Is it dangerous? Do I need a specific skill or physical prowess? Just climbing or knowledge of a particular area or how to move around narrow, dark cave systems? Does getting there imply a lot of effort, a lot of time? Maybe I need to traverse dense vegetations or dangerous rapids? All of these questions can help us get closer to understanding a bit more about the time and energy required to create these images. And in some cases, they might even provide clues or hints about who the artists might have been within a group. The combination between visibility and access can provide some of the most solid hypotheses and interpretations regarding the role or significance rock art has for specific groups. Were they private, specialized practices carried out by singled out individuals, or did the images take part of the lives of all of the groups, maybe even meant to be seen and understood by roaming newcomers? Now, before we keep going, if you're enjoying this content and want to continue learning about this wonderful world of rock art, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified as soon as a new video is posted. With the notions of visibility and accessibility in mind, we can now address the information potential of location in rock art studies. And to do so, we need to consider three different scales of analysis. And by this, I mean three different scopes: location within the landscape, location within the site, and location within the rock. So let's start with location within the landscape. The first thing to consider is the proximity of the site to other features. For example, is it close to important resources? In arid or semi-arid regions, for instance, it's not uncommon to find rock art sites in close proximity to sources of water. So an interesting line of questioning is, can we see patterns between specific drawings and specific placements within the landscape? The second thing to consider is visual connectivity. When I'm standing in the site, can I see other important places, such as other archaeological sites, or maybe a particular feature like a mountain that stands out in the landscape and could have held a particular significance to the groups that inhabited the region? The third, a familiar term, accessibility. Is the site located somewhere that can be easily accessed, a place I can arrive impromptu, maybe anyone can get there? Or is it somewhere that can only be accessed with a specific guide or with specific instructions? And with this comes the fourth one, visibility. Is the rock art located somewhere that stands out in the landscape, maybe an outcrop, a characteristic outcrop, or must I be guided to that location? And finally, we need to consider range and distribution. Very often we find particular images spread across vast territories. Now, styles of rock art are often associated with particular sociocultural groups. So mapping out where in the landscape we find these particular images, this particular style, can help us discuss distribution and the mobility of groups, or at least the dispersal of their imagery. Studying the relationship between the images and the landscape can also help us understand a bit more about how these groups perceive the territories in which they lived in and the resources available. Now, when we look at our medium scope, location within the site, there are two things we need to consider. The first is the placement of the images within the site. Are they signaling something in particular? Are they distributed evenly across the site, or are they concentrated in particular spots? And second, we need to decide for the type of archaeological site in question. In other words, what happens when we look at the rest of the archaeological evidence available? What other activities are being carried out in the site? Where are they choosing? What type of site are they choosing to paint or carve these images? Is it a place where they live? Is it a place where they cook, where they sleep, where they eat? Or is it a place exclusively ritual, or maybe a burial? Was it a site recurrently used across time, or is there evidence of a singled out occupation? How many people can actually be standing in that specific place or participating in that activity at the same time? A whole group? Just one? Throughout the world, we have examples of all of these scenarios. So understanding that what types of sites these groups are choosing to represent or to create these images can provide a lot of information about these pictorial practices. And last but not least, we need to look at our third scope, location within the rock, be it a wall or a boulder. And to do so, we need to consider at least 4 things. Now, the first thing to consider is how do these images interact with features in the rock? Now, in some cases, for instance, it's not uncommon to find that the artists have incorporated features or traits of the rocky canvas onto the designs, while in other places, these characteristics are completely ignored. The second thing to consider is interaction with other images. Are the drawings found isolated, or are they in relation with others? If so, how? How, for example, are new images treating pre-existing ones? Are they overlapping them? Are they ignoring them, avoiding them? Or are they recycling them? Are there specific images that are often found together? Or are there others that never coexist? Next, again, we need to consider accessibility. Are these images carved or painted somewhere I can stand comfortably, or are they way out of reach, requiring scaffolding or structures to do them? Now, this can help us understand a bit more about time investment or energy required to create them. And finally, how does the placement in the rock affect the visibility? For example, a high-placed image, if large enough, can be seen from a great distance, which might give information regarding the motivation behind the effort and time required to actually create them. It is fundamental to never separate image from context. Just like with any other archaeological find, the context is crucial. Where an object is found and in association with what can provide as much information, or maybe even more so, than the object by itself. And the same thing applies to rock art. Understanding where an image is located and how it interacts with surrounding features, other images, and the rest of the archaeological finds can provide incredibly valuable clues that might help us get closer to properly interpreting the significance that this particular practice has had for each specific group. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I do hope